Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the New Cow Corner. Today, we're stepping outside of our wheelhouse and taking you guys outside of your wheelhouse with us. We're talking to a gentleman today who works with quite a few species, but focuses predominantly on leopard geckos. Um, there's quite a few people out there working with them, but there's also a lot of people that don't work with them, and part of this journey Mark and I are on is exposing people to new animals. Even if you don't keep them, the information is good to have in your database of reptiles, right? So today we're speaking with Shane from NS. What is there? Am I saying it correct? What are
In
you? Is it just
excess,
an abbreviation?
basically, in excess, in
NX,
excess, in
NX.
excess,
Okay,
in
I knew
excess
there.
geckos,
Yes, awesome,
like the
awesome. Like how
band,
you did that.
the '80s
Love how you
band.
did that.
Yeah,
Hey. All right, so Shane, give us a little rundown and introduction of yourself, maybe your business, what you do, your elevator pitch, if you will, real quick.
yeah. Well, we started in leopard geckos about a year ago, the first season in February, and in fact, I was introduced to reptiles in about July of 24.
Really?
My wife found a house gecko in her mom's house and called
Oh,
me and was
how's
like, "Hey, I found this." I'm like, well, you know what? I bet it's a baby. I had no clue about reptiles at all, except for the frogs and stuff we caught as a kid. And I was like, bring it home. Well, the next day they found another one. So I bought a 10-gallon tank, put it in there, and I did some research. And I said, this is how big they get, And I'm like, a week later, there was a Repticon show here in Memphis. And we went, and it was my son's birthday. And I had been looking around and I liked leopard geckos. But my son wanted a crested gecko. So we bought him a $175 crested gecko. And I got me a $50 crested gecko. And it started from there. I got a leopard gecko probably. And you know how we first started out? I went to Petco and got me a leopard gecko for, $35. And after that, man, I fell in love with them. And from that point, I had gotten a couple more. I got my first gecko on Morph Market, a leopard gecko, probably about October. And I got him because, it's a bold stripe. It's the black with the yellow stripe down the middle. And then by February, I had gotten a couple more, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try breeding, and it just took off from there. And now I have probably about 120, 115 breeders. Uh,
nice?
but I started out as a keeper, building tanks,
Nice. I
building
think a lot of us
backgrounds.
have. One question I'm super curious about, and I got to ask this because I a lot of not a lot of us. I don't want to say all of us, but definitely not all of us. A lot of people's main goals with this whole reptile thing is to build a following and to build a good reputable brand. 10,000 followers is a lot of followers for a reptile keeper in general, let alone someone that's been doing this for a year. How did you amass 10,000 followers in a single year?
Man, uh, I've tried to freaking get out of it, and I ain't gonna lie. One of those guys contacted me on freaking face on Instagram, and I'll be honest, I'm a open book, dude. He was like,
That's good.
you give me $25, I'll get you so many followers. I'm like, cool. Well, all of a sudden, I paid it. The next day, I have freaking. It started out at like 5,000, went up to 8, and then it's to 10,000. He just recently contacted me again. Was like, hey man, you want some more followers? And dude, he will not leave me alone. I said, dude, disconnect me from your computer. I want to be natural. Because I thought it was like he would do that and then people would just naturally
Yeah.
follow you. You look at a lot of these followers, a lot of these people on these Instagram pages, and I guarantee you they did the same. They're doing the same thing. There's no way that some of these people do what they do and have 50,000 followers, man. So I
Blows my
tried to
mind. That's why I'm always
disconnect.
curious. I'm always curious.
Yeah,
Like,
I
how do they
tried
get
to
so many
disconnect from this guy,
followers?
but he's over there in some other country, and it's been a couple because they'll ask me a question and it's a different person. But I'm like, dude, disconnect me from your computer. I don't want to do this no more. I want to have natural followers because I didn't realize it was like that until a buddy of mine told me. And I'm like, well, son of a gun. Because he asked me too, one of the guys I'm been with, how do you get so many? I'm like, I did this and now I'm stuck with it, you know?
Hey,
So that's
listen,
how
it's
you do it.
more eyes, bigger audience. I mean, and not for nothing,
But
if they
see,
aren't reptile people, you're turning them on to
they,
reptiles. As a matter of that
well, they do,
10,000.
they do have like a big following of Instagram and they post your pictures on there. And so you do have some natural followers.
Okay.
But basically, if you've ever seen it, it's a big room with a bunch of damn computers and they're making fake followers, you know? And yeah. So anyway, I just put myself out there and now I'm going to look like a dumbass because I fell
Well, you
for
know
the
what?
scheme.
I bet you
know?
no one else would
for-
ever be as honest as you are. And I
for
respect
telling
that
the
more than
truth,
anything else.
That's the most respectful thing, for telling the truth. That's
Absolutely.
hats off to that.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of them out there that probably do the same thing.
They
And
wouldn't say it. I was curious. I'm like, damn, it took me years to get 335. I got 3,700 or something. And that's like
I bet you
4
yeah,
years
I
in
bet
the
you
making.
I probably have 25 to 3,000 followers naturally, or maybe more.
That's still good.
I do a lot of
That's
posting,
still
a lot of
incredible.
interaction, with people.
Still incredible. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way. All right. So
so
I
you
had
don't
to
have
know.
10,000 followers.
I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
So you don't have 10,000 followers. Cancel the show. Cancel the interview. It's over.
Yeah, he's a nobody.
I wouldn't care if you had 10. Wouldn't matter to me a single bit, But I think
That's
that it's good
interesting.
for people and businesses, when you have a business and you have a brand and you're really working on brand recognition, it matters. It matters. And to me, it's always a sign of what someone's doing. So if you have a lot, and again, you just enlightened me to the fact that it doesn't mean that it is necessarily, people could be buying followers, but I always look at it like, what are they doing? How are they promoting? How are they advertising that they have so many followers? And what am I not doing that I could get the podcast more exposure by?
I will say, though, the way you post and how you manage your Instagram, it seems genuine, like you would have
organic.
10,000
I believe
followers.
that. I never
like,
would have.
It feels good,
I will say I did have another account when I was in another area of doing things. It was a political account, which I ain't in any of that no more. But I had about 8,000 or 9,000 followers on it, and I created that and got those followers by.
Really?
I'll give you an example, and this might not. It's an example of kind of how I do things. We moved from one part of the city to another. It's a little suburb, kind of out in the country. Small town, got a town square, and everything. And where we were, it was a bigger town here. We were in a church there. Well, when we moved, we decided to move churches. And when we did, I've got a son that's 15. He's in the youth group, and I like to be involved. And when I got there, I met with the youth pastor. I said, hey, I was like, let's have lunch. We went and had lunch, and I was getting plugged in, and he was like, man, he was like, you sure have gotten plugged in real quick. And I was like, man, and I told him straight, I said, this is what I do. I just know how to get plugged in. I know where, I know how to find my way, basically. And he was surprised by that, but it's just how I am in the way I do things. You put me in a room of 1,000 people, and I'll know 900 of them by the time I leave, because I don't leave anybody out. The little person that nobody gives attention, those will be the first people I go to, and
same way, Shane.
Trust me. I can talk.
Same
way.
Put
me in a room with politicians. You put me in a room with the lowest to low, and dude, I can talk to any of them,
Absolutely. I think everyone's interesting. I think everyone is interesting. I don't care if I agree with what you do. I don't care if I agree with what you agree with or don't agree with. I think that there is immense beauty in individualism. I love the idea of people being unique. I think that it's literally, and I don't even want to say what separates us from the animal kingdom, because there's quite a few things, but I love people being people. I encourage people to be weird. I encourage you to be you, and I recognize everyone. We don't have to agree for me to respect you as a human being in your lane doing what you do. Life is beautiful, all forms of it.
I'll tell you, this hobby is great because when we go to shows, you're going to see every demographic of the population. You're going to see, you name a type of person and you're going to see that person there.
Absolutely.
And dude, I love it. I love interacting with people, relating with them. It's I just love.
It's a great thing for you.
Just sit in the mall and watch people. Just watch people. Just sit and just watch people walk by and watch them interact.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that was when
wondering
we had
what they're going on, wondering where they're coming from, wondering where they're going, wondering. It's
in their head.
It's cool to be different.
But
it's cool to be different.
It's good to have that at shows because I don't sit down at shows. I'm constantly up. I saw somewhere somebody say, "Don't sit down." I will have to sit down eventually because I get tired. But I'm constantly interacting. I love it when somebody comes up to the table and goes, like, "How you doing?" They'll go, "Oh, I'm just looking." Oh, that's a challenge because I'm fixing to get them to talk to me. It's like I'll be like, well, I didn't ask you what you wanted. I'm like, I asked how you were doing. How are you doing? And then it opens it up, man, and they open up and start talking. And
we know, Mark, we're talking about this on here one time, and I'm not going to get off on a whole mental health rant, but sometimes
I like that episode. That was
just
good.
Acknowledging someone who feels that they're not acknowledged can quite literally save lives. Just acknowledging someone in a bad mental spot, someone that may be having a really, really bad day, just saying hello to someone or acknowledging them walking down the street when they feel the world doesn't know they exist can make a world's life, let alone day. And I think as humans, again, one thing that separates us from the animal kingdom is our ability to communicate. And we take that for granted as humans, and we don't do it enough. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm gonna get off this real quick. Is like when I'm walking down the street, I say hello to everybody, right? Like my head's up, my chin's up. I'm, hey, how you doing? What's going on? I don't care if I don't know. Like, what's up? I'll act like I've known you my whole life. When I say this to people, some people stare at the ground and walk by you. I hate to admit it, but it instantly almost sends me in a rage. I'm like, you seriously, this is how you treat me? Not because of me, but it's like, can you imagine how many people have walked by you and said hello with their wives, with their children, with their grandmother, and you just ignore them? Who are you to ignore another human? Who are you to ignore another human that has went out of their way to be polite to you? My biggest pet peeve.
But like you said, you never know what's going on with them.
Absolutely.
You never know what's in their head. They could be having a bad day.
Absolutely.
You got to keep the door wide open because you can't point your finger at one thing because they could just be in a bad spot, like you said.
That's how I talk myself off it every time. I'm like, can you imagine being that miserable? Could you imagine? Can you imagine being that miserable that you can't say hello back to somebody? You
just got to let it, like a duck, let it roll off your back.
Off your back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even if they don't say hello back, that one hello could make them feel better eventually.
Yeah.
Depending on what they're going through.
They might say hello to the next person because they're like,
you should try saying hello without the Mets hat. Probably work.
Were you expecting me to laugh or something?
Maybe you need to get you one of these hats. They'll talk to you.
Hey.
That's cool. So are you selling merch yet? Random question, but are you offering up merch for your business? Have you started selling t-shirts or hats or stickers or anything?
I haven't yet. Like I said, man, there's been a lot to this business and to learning a lot of stuff in a short period of time. Like, dude, I'm constantly, I don't think about anything else but this business, the geckos. And I used to be into sports. Like, there's basketball going on right now, and I didn't even know it until something popped up on my phone, So that's something that I have thought about and getting into. It's just I haven't gotten to that yet. There's kind of some, the main thing, make the main thing the main thing. That's kind of the side thing right now. You know what I mean?
So let's talk about that main thing then. So you got into this, you got yourself, you got your first pet store leopard gecko after the crested geckos. At what point, and talk us through, what point did you say, I know you said I'm going to try breeding. At what point did you say, okay, this is a business, I want to turn this into a brand, and this is the direction I want to go in? When and how did all that transpire?
Well, when I fell in love with the leopard geckos, all right, I thought, well, in a few years, I'm going to be able to retire. All right. Well, when my dad retired, I don't know, 20 years ago, say, he retired. And when he did, he had nothing to do. So for about a year, year and a half there, he was kind of lost, man. You know, he was worried about the guys that he worked with would retire and they'd be dead in a year, you know, or 2 years. And there was a lot of things getting to him. Well, they finally got him a motorhome and traveled the country. They found something to do, you know. And with this, I thought,
Awesome.
You know what? I can get into this and then retire, and we can do the shows, you know, we can travel. And I thought, this will be what I do when I retire, you know. And so that's what kind of pushed me into this. Because man, I tell you, there's nothing like I've played sports, I've had all kinds of hobbies, and this hobby, from top to bottom, the reptile invertebrate hobby, is the best there is, hands down. You know, so that's
awesome,
what happened, man. I wanted to do something when I retire, and hey, you mean you can make money doing it too?
Right.
You know, so.
All of the good things you want to do in retirement, travel, you know, selling things you like working with. I mean, meeting people. I mean, it seems like a perfect fit.
Yeah, because we're going to Nashville this weekend for the All-American Plant and Reptile Show.
Oh, you got to tell me how that goes.
Yeah, and then in 2 weeks, we're going to St. Louis for a show up there, Show Me Reptiles. And I'll tell you, man, if you can ever do a reptile show in St. Louis, there's some reptile people there. We've had our biggest show we've had, you know, income-wise, money made, is a one-day show a couple weeks ago in St. Louis. One-day show, we made more than we made in 2 days in any show that we've done.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's packed. The show gets packed with people.
Dude, this was a one-day show, and I guess they knew it because everybody for 2 days worth of people came into a one-day show. It was nuts. Like my 15-year-old usually sits down, he's on his phone. Man, he was up. You know, we sell cork bark too. And when we first started, he'd come up to be like, Dad, how much is, you know, because I price it as we sell it because they're different sizes. You know, you just can't. But he's like, Dad, how much is, and eventually he started pricing it himself. I was like, dude, just do it. And he was, you know, he was pricing it, selling it over there, doing his thing. And I was like, great, you know, so it was good to see him getting involved.
Very nice. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So are you working with, and I'm not very, you know, like I said earlier, I'm not well versed with leopard geckos, but are you working with a specific genes or morphs, or do you kind of just work with everything? How,
I've got, they call it, you know, a genetic library is the word that's floated around on, you know, in the hobby with us, with the leopard geckos. And I've got quite a few different morphs lines, you know, but there's a couple I like to work with right now. It's kind of a fairly new morph. It comes out of the Bandit line, which is a Ron Trimper line he created, and it's called Desert Bold, and it's got kind of a brown coloring to it instead of like a bold stripe has yellow and black. This is more of a brown, and I've got quite a few pairings I did at the beginning of the year with that. And then there's the Monarch line, which John from Gecko Boa, that's his line. And then there's Bengal, which is a line created, which is Bold and Bright, I think. Rudy at Bold and Bright created that line. And I've got Firebold. But I'll tell you, I've got some tangerines that are solid orange tangerines I bred last year. And when I took them to the shows, everybody that stopped by my table pointed at those orange geckos and was like, look at those right there. And I heard Ron Tripper say on a podcast, he said, color sells, and I'm like, I'll be dang, it does,
It does. I have 2 leopard geckos.
But,
one of them's a tangerine, man. Like, it's so mind-blowingly orange. Like, it's almost like safety orange. Like, I look at the thing and it's like every time I open it, I'm like, wow, man. Like, the color is just
and I got some bold stripes that I bred last year that I'm gonna try to get more of a stripe. Like, I had a male that came out of it, and he's stupid. Like, he is. If I can breed him with one of his, we line breed, with one of his sisters or his mom, I could come up. Something really nice could come out of that. A really nice stripe.
What are you using, Shane, as to study with and learn all of these? Because I know there's a lot of different morphs and traits with leopard geckos. Like, do you have a peer or somebody that's helping you out, teach you these things, or are you just doing your own homework?
Well, I did my own homework, but that wasn't good enough because there's so much there's so much, I don't like that word. There's so much information that's not right out there, and but when I got into it, one of the first breeders I bought a breeder that I bought from a breeder, Steven from SC Reptiles. I bought my first 2 female breeders from him, and I'm glad I did because I've learned so much from him. Because with leopard geckos, when you label your geckos, it needs to be labeled a certain way. You can't just willy-nilly label your stuff. Because when I first started, he kind of, called me and messaged me and corrected me. He's like, hey, man, this is, you need to do it this way. This is, and then, that's been a big thing in the hobby is labeling. And I found out that, well, I wasn't labeling correctly, and like the Monarch line. It's a line created by Gecko Boa. If you take that Monarch and cross it with a tangerine or something else, it's no longer Monarch. It's a Monarch cross. And so I was calling things Bandit or Extreme Bolt that was a cross, and I didn't realize that. But I've learned a lot just by going through Morph Market. John from Gecko Boa has a great resource page on his website of all the morphs, the backgrounds, the lines, like the genetics. Genetics was tough for me starting out. That was one thing I wasn't sure about. If it was like an albino and it said 66% het, meaning there's 66% chance that there's an albino in there, I thought there was 66% in there, so, and then I got corrected by Steven. I'm like, because I was like, and he was like, no, this is the way it is. And I'm like, well, shoot, so like I said, it's been learning a lot in a short period of time. And I have really grasped that because, like I said, this is what I do. This is what I think about. This is, what occupies my mind. And so I'm constantly trying to learn because I'm not going to sit on my laurels. I'm going to try to do the best I can with what I've got. And I'm going to try to better that. If you're sitting still, then you're not doing things right. You need to constantly be learning,
That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, all of that you just said is one of the main reasons I never got into leopard geckos. It's like overwhelming. Like when I look at some of these things, I'm like, it's like ball pythons. I'm like, oh, whoa, my brain starts smoking.
There's a lot.
I give you
of
guys
genetics.
credit, man. A lot of credit. I give leopard gecko guys, a lot of credit. I've never said a bad thing about a leopard gecko keeper. Like that's for damn sure. You guys have so many other elements to deal with that we don't. That it's like,
and I want to say I named Steven, but there are so many breeders out there that I talk to. Instagram's big. There's so many out there. I can't name them all. And if they see this, I'm talking about you. If I talk to you, like Joe Garcia does the Geckoverse podcast. One of our second show we did in St. Louis, it was our second show we did ever, was in St. Louis, and he was there. And y'all know what they did? I had a table here. He was right next to me, and we were both selling leopard geckos. And we were like, what the hell, But I met him at that show, and so, he's a great guy. I've got a friendship with him. I've been on his podcast, and if I need anything, I'll text him, or Steven, or there's other guys too, girls. There's other males and females out there that Instagram. If I've got something, like with my Pictus geckos, man, there's no information out there. No information. And Laura from Cato Herps, I've contacted her, and man, she's helped me out so much with my Pictus geckos. Like, she's a godsend, for helping with that.
Wally Kern.
Those are just some examples.
I was just about to say that.
Right. Do you know Wally Kern at Supreme Geckos?
Yeah, but yes, I do. He's got videos on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. He's probably the only. I don't know anyone. I mean, I don't really look for it, but probably the only one I've ever seen make content on Pictus geckos.
Yeah, but
he loves those things.
The little bitty. You put a video out there and you can watch the video, but there's little things like that you can't get out of that. Like I don't know.
Answer questions. The
questions,
in between the crack questions and stuff. Of
course, you still got to have someone to ask. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to say that there's a lot more people out there than just those couple I named.
Sure. I think everyone gets that. Every guest we come on, and people usually feel guilty when they say one name and they're like, "Damn, I didn't say this name, or this name." Yeah. It's like I would like to think that everybody knows, not to take it personal. We're all like that. I mean, there's probably 100 names that I could shout out every day. I mean, I just hope people understand.
Shout out to the whole hobby, everybody from A to Z.
Everyone that helps anyone, everyone that's ever helped.
Mark,
anyone.
Some people get upset when you don't say hello back to them. So,
Well, you got to take off the Mets hat, man. Hey, I was going to ask you, so all in all, you said it before I even got to it. It was being that you're new, fairly new, it was a very welcoming journey for you into the leopard gecko hobby, into the hobby itself. You seem very excited. The leopard gecko people that are more advanced are welcoming you. So that for anybody that's new, because leopard geckos have been around for a long time. Some would say, "Oh, it's saturated," or whatever the case may be, and the passion that you have, that you're giving off, it's like, it's inspiring for people to still want to get into the leopard gecko hobby, and they see you giving that off. It's like, wow, I don't want to hear that it's saturated, or they're not selling for thousands of dollars and stuff like that. You have a passion that it makes me want to go get some more leopard geckos type of deal. So it's like,
yeah.
On top of that, the leopard gecko community has also been very welcoming to you as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. When I first got in, I was worried about my age, because there's a lot of young. That's just me being insecure,
There's a lot of 30-year-olds out here, Shane.
There's a lot of late 20s, early 20s, 30s breeders out there, but man, there's been zero issue, for me. Like, I was worried about that, but it was just me being insecure, because everybody's out there. All the breeders out there, I hadn't had any issues with any of them. And so they've all been welcoming, even any of them, man. I can ask them a question and you'll get an answer. It's that's what's great about the leopard gecko community. I can only speak for it because that's the one I'm in. but it's so inviting. You know, it's a good community. It's a like we're together in this. You know, because as a group, you're stronger as a group as you are an individual. You know, and to have a strong hobby like that, I think it keeps the hobby going. And you know, just like me being new last year, I see new breeders coming in this year. You know, and we need to give back because those breeders are coming in the same way I did with a lot of questions, you know, and it's up to us guys that have been around, me just being a year, but I've learned a lot in a year. We got to be there for those young guys because what's the future of the hobby? You know, it's those new people coming in. You know, we need to lead them in the right direction, you know, so that that they can be successful, you know.
Sure.
Don't say your age. Did you say your age? Did he say his age? He didn't say his age.
I told y'all before the show.
Okay, but you didn't say it while we were recording. Don't say your age. I want everybody to put in the comments, how old do you think Shane is? If you get it correctly, we are going to ship you out a monster box enclosure. If you get it correctly, we will ship you out a monster box what is it? PVC enclosure. Don't say your age. Put it in the comments and we'll check it out. When the video comes out a week after this video releases, we will check the comments, and whoever guesses his age, we will ship you out a monster box enclosure. That's cool, Anthony? You're good with that?
I don't have one, but yeah, I'll have to.
I have one for them. Don't worry. Make sure you put it in the comments. We need all the comments. Guess his age.
Hey, I think I think you look a lot younger than your
age. Hey, no cheating, man.
I'm not cheating. I'm not going to give it away.
Oh man.
You know, I don't think anyone's going to guess it, if I'm being honest. So back to vending. I'm curious, being that I would say the second most popular, and depending on what show you're at, very well could easily be the most popular reptile at any reptile show I go to, is leopard geckos. How is that working for you selling them? Is there a lot of, I mean, I don't want to say competition, but how has it been selling animals in a community with a lot of other people that are trying to sell the same thing you are? Are you having to lower your prices, or are you working with different lines than other people are? How do you separate yourself from the masses to sell your animals, I guess?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's a broad question because there's a lot of stuff to put into that question because when I first started, the first show we did, you know, I had to buy wholesale geckos from John at Gecko Boa because I didn't have any to sell, you know, but I just wanted to get out there and get my name out there, get in the shows, you know, because some of the shows you got like the All-American. If you don't sign up by the end of this show, you're not getting in the next show, you know. But anyway, we got in the door, and the first show, there's some morphs in the hobby that are just no-nos. An Enigma is one of them. I'm new to the hobby. I'm doing my first show, dude. I go over this table. This girl's got.
Do you know all the morphs that are not good for the hobby? Do you know them? Could you name those?
It's basically just two right now, and like people don't really work with Lemon Frost anymore.
Lemon
Frost was one of them, and Enigma. And there was some big controversy over that, you know, years. But anyway, I go to the show, and this girl's got Enigmas on her table, and I thought, what the hell have I gotten into? But seeing that, and I'll tell you that at most of the shows I do, the smaller shows, I'm the only leopard gecko breeder in the house.
Really?
You know, and most of the leopard geckos on the tables are wholesale geckos that guys get them from reptiles by Mac or wherever they get them from, and they're selling them for $20 a gecko, you know. And my prices are a lot higher than that. You know, when I started out at the wholesale I had, it was like 125 bucks, it shows for just, your basic kind of leopard gecko. But man, I'll tell you, at every show, it never fails. People come by my table and they go, "You have the best looking leopard geckos, best looking and the healthiest geckos in the house," you know? And
Nice.
I'm like, well, there's a reason for that, because we breed for health, for one thing, and color and pattern and all of that. But in saying all that, I had to come to the realization that I just wasn't going to be able to sell my geckos, at this point for that price point. And I've lowered them a little bit, but my thing is when somebody comes in to buy a gecko, if you have it priced a little higher, you're going to keep those people from buying your gecko that are coming in there and impulse buying. And I'll tell you this, most of the people that have bought my geckos, they've already got an enclosure. They're prepared. They're just ready to get the gecko, take it home and put it in the enclosure. And one thing too, I'm big on husbandry. Husbandry with the leopard geckos. Let's get things right, because I want my geckos to go to a home they're going to be taken care of. I don't want to see them on Reddit or Instagram where, somebody's got this gecko and it looks skin and bones. And I don't want to see that. I'm going to do everything I can to try to prevent that, But, and so keeping my prices that way, I feel is going to keep that from happening. But I will say that it was frustrating when I got in, and I've talked to it and heard other breeders talk about it, but just the low price of the geckos, and it's probably hobby wide, it shows, because there's a lot of vendors at the shows we do that are they just wholesale animals. It's just the way the hobby is. They're there to make money, and but I've had to come to the realization of all of that, because I'm trying to figure out the hobby, and I'm seeing all this, and it was kind of getting to me. Kind of like Anthony, you saying that walking down the street, you say hello to somebody, and they don't say anything to you. It can get to you. I had to realize that I've just got to let that go. I've got to do my thing, and I hope it's working, because man, the last two shows that we've done, people have come to my table and they're like, "Man, we're here because we saw you on Instagram, we saw you on Facebook, and we wanted to come see your geckos." And it happened our first show, and then the second show, it happened again, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of working. And one of the shows, man, and there's a picture on my Instagram. It's one of the shows we did where I showed pictures of kids holding the geckos. Well, at the last picture, there's this family, and man, they were awesome. Awesome family. The dad and I talked while the kids were, and he said, man, he was like, "You keep doing what you're doing." He said, "You're personable. You make people feel comfortable. Just the way you're going about things, man." He was like, "Keep doing it, because it's going to lead you somewhere." And I was like, dude, man, you don't know what that means for you saying that. I do what I do and I don't get any feedback. But when you told me that, I was like, man, I sure appreciate it,
That's awesome.
So
it's rewarding.
Yeah, it is, and that's how we try to be. It shows we want people to feel like they've known us for years, and just make them feel comfortable. And that's part of the hobby,
good.
man.
You picked a good species, if I'm being honest. I think that leopard geckos have been super popular since I was a kid, and we're talking about the 80s, right? They, for whatever reason, and I'm sure you have a laundry list of them, they make great pets for a wide range of people in scenarios. They And it always seems like year after year after year, they continue to get more and more popular. And every year since I was a kid and watched these things grow, I'm saying they're not going to get any bigger. They're not going to get any bigger. How many more people go on? I'm not going to get any bigger. And I look at it today, and all these years later, I'm like, holy crap. And they are still one of the most, probably the most popular gecko. I mean, I'm almost certain they're more popular than New Caledonian geckos, but it's awesome. You picked a good species to work with as far as placing them in homes, finding people that are, that want them and will take care of them. And I mean, you got to, a lot of things, working for you here. It's seems the
Yeah,
little I know about you in this, you have a very promising future.
yeah. I tell everybody that, and I've heard somebody say it about crested geckos too, but no, it was the girl that was on the show. I think the last show y'all had, she called them bomb-proof crested geckos.
Mm.
And what I say about leopard geckos is they're bulletproof. Because man, they can go a month without eating, man. Because they've got that fat tail, and that fat tail holds all their nutrients. Because in the wild, they don't know when their next meal is.
Absolutely.
And so, they're just resilient that way. That way, and some people are just not going to take care of their animals, and a leopard gecko will be fine, but you want them to take care of their animals. But they're just bulletproof, man. They're not like dogs, like mammals. People think when they get into reptiles, they think that, oh, I've got to feed it every day and, this and that. No, a male adult leopard gecko, once a week, man. Once a week, you feed it and you're good. And so, but yeah, they're bulletproof. That's my word I use.
So back to the husbandry, because I know you say you were real keen on husbandry. I'm here shopping at your table, and I want to get a leopard gecko for my son. What are you suggesting for husbandry for somebody?
Well, first off, we need to get you a tank. 40-gallon is the hobby recommended size. That's the minimum size. And then we're going to need 3 hides. You're going to need a cool side hide. You're going to need a humid hide, which needs to be over near the heat lamp. And then we're going to need a basking spot with a light with a basking lamp in it. And that way, when that light comes down, it hits that basking area. But you need a thermostat, not a thermometer. That's what I always have to say that. They're like, I've got one of those. I'm like, okay, you have a thermometer? That's what you've got. This is different. It has a probe that goes down, the light hits it, keeps that lamp at a certain temperature, And that's your basic setup. But what I take it to
Leopard
another
geckos,
level.
by the way, not to interrupt, but it is leopard geckos. They're the most popular pet gecko in the United States. Leopard geckos.
Sweet.
I knew it had to be. All right. Sorry to interrupt.
But no, you're good. My recommended, we recommend to the next level is bioactive. And I that's the reason I sell isopods too, because when I first got into it, building bioactive, whether it's tropical, I can tell you how to build a tropical. Watching Mark do his gargle, that's how I got on Instagram months back. But that's the reason I got into isopods, because I don't push bioactive, but I suggest it. And I would say 90% of the geckos I've sold, people wanted to do bioactive. And that's what the isopods are for. Ringtails, I can tell you how to set it up. And then you can put more things in there for them to they call it something.
Enrichment.
For enrichment. Yeah, enrichment. Cork bark. The more you have in
plants.
there, live plants. I've got plants on my phone that I recommend, and so that's the direction that I would go with a customer. That's just, I tell them 2 options. You can go paper towels or you can go bioactive, but then, so.
Makes it fun. It makes it fun keeping leopard geckos bioactive.
Yeah.
If you, especially if
Keeping
you're not
everything
breeding.
does.
Yeah, well, everything. But if you're not breeding, especially leopard geckos,
Hard if you're breeding it.
the normal thing that you go to like these Pet Smarts and stuff like that, and they give you that leopard gecko kit, and it's got the little green fur and all of that. Like, so they think that that's the way, but when you
And it's
put
got a bag of sand in there, which sand is the number one no to put as substrate for leopard geckos.
Yeah,
Really?
like,
why is that?
Well, it's impaction.
That's what I
Like
keep
they
mine
can
on.
ingest it. They can ingest it, impaction. It gets them stopped up, and it can take their life.
Interesting. See, these are the things you don't know, not being a leopard gecko keeper. I'm like, they're from the Middle East, they're probably on sand. So I like mix sand with gravel and throw them in there. And I'm always wondering why they poop out little sand bricks. I'm like, it just like made like a perfect compact sand pellet. I'm like, doesn't seem normal, but I guess it's good fiber.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? You're talking about them pooping. Leopard geckos find a spot in their enclosure, and that's where they poop, man.
I think that's so cool.
They have their own little toilet,
That's a cool thing.
When you sell, you mentioned earlier bark. Do you sell other items for say new keepers at your table? Like, are you selling enclosures or food? Are you selling other things that a new pet keeper would need?
I'm glad you asked, because y'all sell enclosures, and we need to get together because maybe we can come up with something for a leopard gecko to sell. But that's another thing. You asked me about t-shirts and all that. That's another thing that when we get going more, I'm gonna have enclosures to sell. Like I've got 2 enclosures in here that I've got bioactive for my leopard geckos, but I got rid of 2 pets, and so those enclosures are just sitting there. And I have built backgrounds, spray foam. That what I'm gonna do is take the dirt out and take that enclosure to the show. And I don't know what I'm gonna sell it for, but I'm gonna see how it sells. And if we get into this full time, I'm gonna make enclosures with backgrounds to sell at shows. But we sell other things like the cork bark. I just recently, for this show, I ordered some ghost woods. Was it cholla? Them little cactus.
Old dried up cactus, yeah. Cholla.
That, some grapevine sticks, and
nice.
So I want to see how that sells. And so, but yeah, eventually I want to have enclosures on my table, and that way they can just take the enclosure home with them, take their hides. There's so many things that I've got in the works to do, like getting a 3D printer, making my own hides to sell with the geckos. There's a plethora of things we can do, when we have more time on our hands.
Sure. Do you use breeding boxes or lay boxes for leopard geckos? How do you go about breeding them?
Well, we got, I use the rack system, and then in the rack, I have 2 hides, one kind of at the front, the cool side, one right there where the heat tape goes. And then, man, I go up to Sam's and buy a big quantity of the food containers. The black containers with the plastic top. Like you get at the Chinese restaurant when you get your food. And I take a smoldering iron and I melt a circle on one end of it, like you've got your container. Well, I was putting it in the middle, but then it was drying out more, so I put it on the end so this side stays a little more humid. But that's what I use for a lay box and a humid hide. I put it right over the heat tape in the back of the tub, and that's where they lay their eggs. And that's what we all do. You go look at all the leopard gecko breeders on Instagram right now. That's what they've got. They've got their little containers.
That's what I use for crested geckos. Same thing. The little meal prep containers with a hole cut in them, and I pack them with wet moss, and they use them for humid hides and lay bins.
Yeah,
You know,
it's perfect.
for one section I have, but
Do you temperature sex them, or you just
Yes, I do.
You do?
And 80 to 82 is females, and then 88 to 90 is males. And it's pretty, for me. I don't know if I had one that wasn't temp sex right last year. Every one of my geckos came out as I wanted it to, temp sex.
Let me ask you something. 80 to 82 is female?
Female. Uh-huh.
And then 88 to 90 is male.
Yes.
So 82 to 88 would be
is a toss up.
Is
it
a
can
toss
be either
up.
one.
I was talking to somebody about that the other day when it came to lychees, actually, because I believe lychees are temperature sexed, right?
some people say they are. Yeah, I haven't tried it, but
I was talking about that, and I'm like, well, if that's 80 to 82 is female and 88 to 90 is male. Obviously, in between, it's a toss up, so you get a mixture.
Yeah, and I've only done the female and male temp sex because, when you breed, especially with leopard geckos, if you can get what you want, if I can get 5 females and I can only get 2 males, and that's what I want out of my, pairings, at least you know what you're getting. I've kind of looked into gargoyles, and it's just a toss up with them. It seems like there's few males that you can get out of a pairing, from what I've seen. Like, you get more females than you do males, right? In gargoyles, y'all, you breed them.
It's a toss up there also because they have what you call the male
maker.
The male maker, which will only make you males. I haven't had that experience, but I've seen and heard of it as well.
Yeah, but that's right, the male maker.
With like crested geckos, depending on the pairings, I have seen some predominantly males. Out of, let's say, 20, you'll have 14 males and a few females, and then some give you 14 females and a few males. So it's weird like that.
Is there something with leopard geckos and their color or something with incubation temperatures? I feel like I heard someone mentioning you can do something with the
brightness.
Temperatures.
Yeah. What you do is, after I forget the weeks, I knew it last season, but it's like after, let's just say 4 weeks. I don't know the number, but you can take the females and put them in the male incubator. And I experimented with that. My last few eggs of the season last year, I did that. I took them. I took the whole, I don't know how many eggs it was. It might have been 14. Just put the whole container in there after the time that they say to do it. So that the sex is already determined by the temperature you have them at, female wise. That's already determined, and you can take them and put them in the male incubator, and they say that the color, it'll enhance the color. I didn't really, I don't know if I saw that, but it did make the eggs hatch earlier than they would, because they're getting
warmer,
a higher temperature.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there's a lot of little different things with these.
Yeah, and I
wonder who discovered these techniques.
I know. I've heard Ron Trimper. If y'all know who Ron Trimper is, I heard him talk about it on a podcast, maybe he's got it on his website. But I have heard him say that, somewhere. I don't know the media that I saw it on, but it was probably a podcast. The Strength in Leo's podcast he was on. I think that's where it might have been from. So yeah, I experimented with that, and I really didn't see a noticeable difference. But I thought about doing it again and paying more attention this time, and see if we get
Testing it out.
any.
Sure. I mean, if it's not a risk, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel like some experiments just aren't worth it. I mean, working with what you know is a good thing. Like, it's even incubating. I've tried to switch mediums before, like using a different substrate for incubating. And I've had seasons where I know I didn't do good because I switched to medium and I should have just stuck with what worked and what I knew. And, I kick myself in the butt sometimes for trying new things when I already had a system that worked.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Basically.
Yeah. The only thing I was worried about was maybe getting males out of it, but I didn't. The females turned out to be females,
So are they not desirable? I mean, how or is one sex more desirable with leopard geckos, or is it basically the same thing as crested gecko, depending on the breeder, the gender,
Well,
carries its own value?
Well, I mean, with any species, you can take one male and breed it to as many females,
Sure.
as you want. Whereas a female, you only get one shot, and so that if you have a strong male, you know, that can get you a lot,
Assuming it carries the genes you want. See, my whole notion with leopard geckos is that they had so many different genes that you almost need a male and a female of every morph because of the morph, if that makes sense. Like, you can't just take how would I explain this? Like, I just always figured to keep to work with leopard gecko morphs, and you didn't have it as many like hets, or they're not like phenotypes like crested geckos, a red crested gecko, a red phantom, you could put to a bunch of things and make a bunch of things. Well, I guess that would be the same thing with leopard geckos, but I figure if you
Yeah, it
had
is.
like two bold stripes, you don't want to take a bold stripe and put it to a tangerine or something, wouldn't make sense. So you could have one awesome bold stripe.
They do that.
Putting them to a bunch of wrong genes would make a bunch of undesirable geckos, if that makes any sense.
Well, I mean,
Again, I don't know these things at all. These are all just
like when I talked about the genetic library, if you have a lot to offer, a lot to choose from, you can create. Man, it's like having a blank canvas, dude, and you've got a bunch of paint over here, and you can create what you want, because certain morphs work good with other morphs. Like you're going to create something really good. Some of them, like it may take years to get the look you want, in what you're doing. Like you said that bold stripes and not a tangerine. I paired a bandit, which is basically a bold stripe, to a tangerine I've got. He's solid orange. He's Trimper albino. He's a red diamond mandarin cross. And dude, he's beautiful. Like his orange is beautiful. But I'm gonna pair them and try to get some orange into the bandit, and then maybe the next year pair him back to one of the babies, get more orange in it, because that's how there's a line called Bengal, and Bengal was created, by just mixing the morphs in, and it started, I believe, from what I looked on Morph Market and how the guy started doing it, that it started with like with a bandit and Halloween mask. They kind of have the same color and look, but they're two different lines. But I'm thinking that he started with that, kind of bold stripe look, and started putting tangerine in it. Firebold is another line, and then created the Bengal, which is an orange with a real contrast black, and like it's a beautiful line,
What's the newest? What's the newest thing out there for leopard geckos? Is there anything that's fresh off the
press? I know right now, like the Mandarin Black Knight is kind of a big deal, and there's, gosh, off the bat, oh, like Bengal is kind of big. And then, but yeah, I think the like the hottest one, the most expensive one is going to be the Mandarin Black Knight, because it just takes that orange and black and mixes it and makes for a pretty sweet looking gecko.
Mandarin
But
Black Knights.
When you have you're talking about all these genes, and say you have two animals, a male and a female, that are, obviously a collection of different genes. Will the clutches both come out, both eggs hatch the same morph as each other, or can you hatch out two completely different morphs from one pairing?
no, they're not all. I mean, let's take. There's a percentage of when you like Max Snow. Max Snow is it's a Max Snow is is it dominant or is it it's co-dominant, I believe. Anyway, I paired a Max Snow to say a bold stripe. It was a bandit cross, and I got 4 Max Snows out of that, and then I got 4 bold stripes that were out of that. But you can get, like, if you have an albino and you breed an albino too, you can have the 2 eggs. One will be albino and the other one won't.
And the other one won't.
And they're
Okay,
clutch
so that's
mates.
kind of like crested geckos. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That makes it
But yeah,
exciting. That's definitely makes it exciting.
Oh yeah, because I had a clutch. I think there were 8 eggs, and I got 3 albinos out of it, bold stripe albinos, and then the rest of them were all stripes too. Which I didn't get a female out of that, man. I got 3 males, that were. It's just the luck of the draw. The eggs I put in the male incubator, the ones I put in the females. Because I'm working with the Desert Bold now, and I just found out a couple months ago that talking to another breeder that a visual trimper, you're more than likely to get a Desert Bold out of that, than you will a non-visual visual albino, because they kind of work together. John from Gecko Boa, he's put some stuff out about it, and man, it's complicated. But if you know anything about allelic, like there's a morph in, I don't think it's ball pythons, it's maybe boa constrictors, but anyway, it's allelic, and I couldn't explain it to you right now, but
There's a few crested gecko genes that are allelic.
Yeah, and so you need that in there to create one. If not, because at the beginning of the season, man, before I found this out, I paired non-visuals to my Desert Bold male, and I don't think I'm gonna get any Desert Bolds out of it. I'll get some nice bold stripes and stuff like that, but live and learn. Now I know that, and so
since you're working with the albinos, teach me a little bit here about the albinos. There's 3 different types of albinos, right? And none of them are compatible with each other or something? Like you can't, they all have to.
That's one of the faux pas in the hobby is, breeding any of the albinos together. And there's some eye traits like eclipse, marble eye. You don't breed those together because you won't know what you got. You'll have your babies, will be either eclipse or marble eye. And with leopard geckos, we want to know what's in the gecko.
Sure.
We don't want to be surprised,
Sure.
what's going to come out of that, because we're looking for results, and we want the results, that we know we're going to get. And with that surprise, it's like a no-no.
Could be a disappointment,
yeah. Yeah, because
similar to like cappuccino.
Compatible, though.
Well, I mean, you could breed them, but that would be like
it's frowned upon.
A no-no. Yeah, it's frowned upon big time. Like the snows. There's Max Snow, Tug Snow, and Jim Snow. You don't breed those together.
Frowned upon, yeah.
Yeah,
it's basically 3 different lines of snow.
Yeah, it's
Okay, see, I always thought there were different types of albino, kind of like the tokays, Mark. Like they have the T in the other one, like you can't. They won't make.
T
you can have
positive,
two
T.
albinos and put them together, and you won't get an albino.
This is more like the cap, the sable, and the highway, like how they say they're a lilac and all of that stuff.
They're a lilac, yeah.
But you got the Tremper albino, the Bell albino, and the Las Vegas albino, which is rainwater.
Is Las Vegas?
Yeah,
I have a rainwater. I know nothing about him, but I have a rainwater albino, and it doesn't even look albino, if I'm being honest. But I can't tell that it has red eyes. The eyes don't look red; they look gray to me. But I don't know.
Yeah, I just recently picked up. I got a Bell albino female and a rainwater, and I got them from John at Gecko Boa to actually just test breed one of my tangerine males, who's he's electric and inferno tangerine, non-het. He's supposed to be non-het, but I want to test him out to make sure. But when I got those from him, and I opened those containers and looked, I had no intention of breeding bells or rainwaters. But when I got them and saw how beautiful they were, I'm like, okay, these can't sit on the shelf, And so I actually got another rainwater female and another bell, like a Max Snow bell female that I got from another breeder. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm telling you, color sells, man. Like orange at the shows, it's eye-catching. Why do we wear yellow vests, because they can see us and not run us over out in the parking lot, and so orange stands out. That's the reason, being in Mississippi, there's a lot of hunters out here, man. and at certain times of the year, all you're going to see is orange walking around here.
Well, my next question was going to be, does anything sell? Does anything that you breed seem to sell better than the rest? But I'm going to say that it's probably the orange stuff, right? The tangerine stuff?
Yeah, it's the orange. And I only had 8 babies this year from that pairing, but I kept 3 females and a male, 3 of the best. And so those went quick, but I'll tell you, in the hobby, like the snows, they're okay. They're not real popular in the breeder community, but man, you go to shows and people love the snows, Max Snow's the most common, and people just love them. I had that pairing I told you about where I bred the Max Snow with the bold stripe. Like those snows, like those sold easy. I sold all 8 of those geckos, boom, right away, And so there's those, but like I said, color sells like any kind of tangerine. They sell real well. Pattern. And I'll tell you, man, it depends on the person. I say, and I've heard people say, there's a gecko for everybody, So you might think you have the ugliest gecko on your table, and somebody walk up and go, "Oh my God, that's the most beautiful gecko I've ever seen," So, but yeah, that's about how it is.
You're talking about selling animals. Or have you tried any other platforms, or have you sold on Palm Street? Or are you doing Morph Market, or is in-person shows your only?
We do. I've done Morph Market, but it being my first year, I'm not well known yet. I'm just starting to get my name out there. You got to get that
followers than all of us.
Yeah, yeah. But that ball's just starting to get rolling. Whereas I said, people at the show said, "Hey, I saw you on Instagram. We came up to here to see your geckos."
That's awesome.
Morph Market, I've sold some on there, but I didn't really have a lot to sell this year because I didn't produce a whole lot. I didn't want to overdo it, and but I just filled out the Palm Street application, and that was like yesterday or the day before, so I don't know how that's going to go. I know at one point it was hard to get in, but man, and no offense to anybody, but Palm Street's the Crested Gecko network, man. Like they sell more crested geckos.
That's a good thing for you. There. That's a huge plus for you. Less leopard gecko breeders, man. I think that'd be awesome for I've been saying this for people that breed all types of other geckos to get involved. I mean, you could capitalize right now, with dominating an audience. As people obviously want leopard geckos, and there's not many people on there that are selling them. So
I've
if they can start
sold
getting
out.
associated and known,
I
Yeah.
have Max Snows at the shows and on Palm Street. I don't breed leopard geckos massively, but every Max Snow that I put up for sale is gone instantly. Palm Street and at the reptile shows, man. You got to try Palm
Really?
Street. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope I get approved, but Morph Market just started their lives. Their lives. I don't know how that's going, but that would be something. Because once we get going, right now my reptile room is the breeding room was half attic and half breeding room because we on the back it's a 25 foot by whatever over the garage space that's been built. It's a finished playroom, and I just had back that with Christmas stuff, and and the front side was my breeding room, but we're fixing to expand if we're going to do this full time. And so right now I'm sitting here in my den, and I'm not going to show you this corner right here, but there's a bunch of bins and Christmas stuff because I'm moving everything out, and I've got a big shed outside that we're going to put all this in when we get the time. But we got 2 shows coming up, and it's busy. But so that room's got carpet in it. I'm fixing to put vinyl plank flooring in there. We did our whole house when we moved in 3 years ago. We did the whole house ourselves, vinyl plank flooring. And I don't recommend that to anybody if it's just you and your wife and a 15-year-old. But we do have 2 older boys that help. But anyway, and we did survive. We're still married. But I'm going to do that up there because the carpet is just, it just holds too much stuff. You got to vacuum. It's not as clean as it, as like a, hardwood floor would be. But there's that room I'm working on. There's a lot of stuff going on. I got like 15 candles burning at a couple ends
awesome.
each.
That's awesome. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you going to do anything else to that room? Do you have any other plans to adapt that room to what you're doing? Is like, I mean, I don't know what a designated heating zone or lighting, or what do you plan on doing in there?
It's got a one of those split units, that's on the wall, the AC and heat.
Mini split.
Mini
It's
split.
got one of those. Mini split. That's what mini split.
Really?
I can never remember that name. But it's got the mini split, so I can regulate the temperature. Like
That's
I've got it
awesome.
at like 78, and that room, I can create that room the way I want it. It's not connected to the house AC. But that room, you've got that room, which is right there, but there's a door that goes, that connects that room to a bedroom. So that bedroom and that attic, that playroom, it's almost like one room with a door in between it, and the bedroom is about I don't know, guess 12 by 12. And that's where I've got my glass enclosures, my bioactives.
Okay.
And so that room is all there. But what I'm going to do is downsize my pets. Like I got 2 ball pythons. I'm probably going to sell at the shows because, their enclosures are 4 by 2 by 2. That takes up a lot of freaking space.
Yeah.
And there's that. I got a fire skink that I never see. I've seen him twice in a year.
I had a fire. Shane, let me ask you something. What's your feelings behind cohabitating leopard geckos? What are your thoughts behind that?
It's I don't recommend it, especially for like, somebody that's just getting a leopard gecko. But I don't recommend it just because, there's too much risk. You can do females. Like I said, I don't recommend it, but you can do females, but you definitely can't do males. That's with any species. It's just like us. When we were teenagers, the guy from the neighborhood over, we're going to fight. and that's what males are going to do of any species, you know. So, but I don't recommend it. I don't even, you know, I don't even like
Do you keep your
it's
breeders
really a
together?
no.
Do you keep your breeders
No,
together, or do you?
well, some breeders will put their males in with their females and leave them overnight, leave them for weeks. But man, I don't have a whole lot of breeders, per se, like to some others. And if I got a really nice female, because the female is going to be the one that gets killed, if they fight. And so I can't risk losing a female by leaving them in there. So when I pair them, I put the male in there, and I'm telling you, dude, within less than 30 seconds, dudes wag. If you've ever seen one, they wag their tail, vibrate wise,
I
and
love it.
it's on.
I love
He's
it.
fixing to do his thing, and that's how I do it. If they don't pair up, if she just doesn't want to do it, I'll come back the next day or in a couple of days. But I've thought about leaving the males in there. But man, there's a couple of breeders. Even John from Gecko Boa, he's probably the best breeder in the world of leopard geckos, the most well known. He had 2 females die because the male, if you know how alligators do the alligator roll when they grab something, that's what leopard geckos do. They're looking to rip something off, and he went in there, and the arm on the females is gone. He just done, and that
Wow.
female is not. It's done after that. So you're going to lose that female, and I don't want to risk that. There's another breeder, Reese from House of Reps. He had the same thing happen to one of his primo females. He lost it because the same thing happened. But there's others that are successful with it. I just can't take that risk because,
Getting feedback now, Anthony. I'm hearing double now. I think because you took off your headphones.
Still, hold on. I'm trying to adjust it now. Them things are killing my ears, bro. You still hear it?
I still hear it. I only ask. Honestly, like I've heard both versions. Like I've heard both versions. I hear people say you can do it. I know there was a lot of controversy.
Put them headphones back on.
Yeah,
be a man.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
You guys take a break. We'll be right back with more New Cal Corner.
Oh man,
These things are not comfortable.
There we go.
Is it gone?
I drive the semis.
Welcome back to the New Cal Corner.
There it goes.
I drive the semis at night for UPS, and we talk on the phone, and I have those headphones too that has the mic that comes over. Yeah. And I can only do it for so long, dude. And I'm like, I gotta go, guys, because my ears are killing me.
Dude, it's like, oh my god, I never really wear them, and I've been trying to wear them more because, in all honesty, my damn dog, he hears people and he thinks there's people in the house, and he's like on me if he can hear this. So I'm like, I just put my headphones on so he doesn't hear anybody talk, and then he relaxes. And they start freaking hurting my damn ears.
What were you saying, Mark? What were you saying?
So I the only reason why I ask is because I've heard, I've seen, I've heard, I've witnessed a lot of, some people say you can do it. Some people say you can't do it. The study, I know there was a lot of controversy with that recently where some famous YouTuber had a bunch of leopard geckos together.
Adam Wickens, I'll say that name, Mr. Wickens.
Yeah, Mr. Wickens. I'll tell you, like I've had a male and female leopard gecko together for 10 years, and I've never had no issues, and I've been having babies. But I also know, same with crested geckos and other geckos as well. It's not for everybody to do, so it's not something I recommend either. But I just wanted to know your stance, or if you have done it.
That's what I'm going to say publicly. That's my public statement.
Sure, I just got to go the safe
I will
route.
say, the reptile hobby is a fairly new hobby if you think about it. How long have ball pythons been here? Crested geckos were rediscovered in 94. Leopard geckos, I think, have been in the States since the late 60s. And we had
A long
those
shit.
guys that brought all these in here had to learn how to house these things. And just because this care guide says this about leopard geckos, there's a lot of stuff out there that, is it right? Is it wrong? Because, dude, leopard geckos live out in the wild in little communities,
Yeah.
in groups, and they all interact with each other, you know, like they all I can't, I want to be nice for here, but they all kind of do it with each other, you know, like and that's the reason you can line breed leopard geckos, because you can breed sisters to brothers to moms to dads.
It's like they live in a hierarchy. And that's why I asked too, because you hear these stories and stuff like that. And I'm not saying who's right, who's wrong, but I would assume, especially for breeders where you're keeping them in bins, those type of accidents would probably happen or occur more often, being that you have a male and a female in a bin and there's not enough space for them to get away from each other, type of deal. Whereas
Exactly.
if in my 10 years of having my 2 leopard geckos, they've been in 75-gallon tanks, 40-gallon tanks, 75-gallon tanks as they got to adults, and I've never had an issue. But I can see it happening in a small, what is it that you use for breeding? 16-quart tub, 40,
Yeah, 23, I think, is my
23-quart tub. Like,
but yeah, because that's the thing. Out in the wild, they've got places to escape, and if you've seen Adam's video that he put out about that, like, he's got a huge enclosure. I don't know how big it is, but it's freaking huge. And so they've got places to hide and places to go, but the hobby has its, especially, I'll just bring up Reddit or Facebook pages. If you say the wrong thing on a Facebook page, one of those leopard gecko pages, dude, they're gonna shut you down. It kills me that somebody will put on there and ask a question about a leopard gecko, and there'll be answers, and then the moderator will turn the comments off, and it's like, why do you even have this page if you're gonna cut people off from not helping this person? Whether it's wrong information or it's right, it's information, and that kills me. But this hobby is, there's so many things to learn and so many things to improve, and so the care guides we have and all of that, we need to go by them. But there still is some wiggle room, because this hobby's fairly new, but I don't recommend cohabbing, just because there's too many mistakes can be made with the rookies, the new people in the hobby, new gecko owners, but experienced people. Because there's been studies, I've watched YouTube videos, some guy over in Australia, there were studies done that they are a social, with each other in the wild, but for the hobby, it's just not a good thing to suggest that, there's too many new people
out there. Speaking
about
care guides, is there when you first started looking for information, I guess what I'm getting at is there any good literature you would suggest a new keeper seek out? Is there any books that you found extremely helpful, or I know we had mentioned some of these online articles and the gene thing at Gecko Bow or whatever, but is there any books that you would suggest someone goes and buys if they're getting into leopard geckos?
Ron Tripper has 2 books that he put out. That's just about genetics in the hobby as a whole. But there's a book on Amazon. It's I think it's the Leopard Gecko Care Guide. Yeah, Leopard Gecko. Yeah, I remember. That's right. I remember you posting that, and you got a signed copy, bro.
But that's just like morphs and stuff, though, right? That's just morphs? It's not like general.
Yeah, that's just
that one. That one in particular is morphs, and then he's got another one also.
Yeah,
it's like general care. This is for a new
this
keeper?
Is a signed copy. This is signed.
Excuse me.
I'm just saying. All right.
Excuse me.
Hey, he's got it. But yeah, and I'll tell you, when I go to do something, I'm going to take 100 different things and look, if there's 100 care guides, I'm going to take 100 care guides and I'm going to look at them. What are they all saying? What's the common information? And narrow it down to, okay, what am I going to do? Because you can't take one person's advice and take it as gold, take it as the right information. You've got to
scenario's different. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone's micro environments and climates are different. There's a lot of factors.
And I'll tell you this about leopard geckos. And I just kind of came to this conclusion because I do things different with my bioactives that probably nobody does. But with leopard geckos, they think that, they're all in this dry environment, 20 degree humidity, this and that. But in the wild, in the daytime, where are they at? They're in cracks and crevices that are humid. Where, Mark, tell me where your leopard gecko is in the daytime. Is it in that humid hide or is it out in the open?
It's always in the hides. In the nighttime, when the lights first go off, routinely they come out and they will not bask in the light. They will bask on the rock after the lights have turned off.
Yep. And so think about that. The hobby is saying that they need this low humidity and all this. They're going to get respiratory issues. I see that on Reddit and all that. I'm just like, these people that know it all, that run these pages, like they're the most annoying people out there. No offense to the annoying people if they're watching, but it just kills me that it's got to be done this way or you're rejected from their page. But man, there's some misnomers in that because what I do with my bioactive enclosures with my leopard geckos, I saw this Ever Evolving Exotics. It's a guy out in Arizona. Owns a pet store, I think.
Oh, Ever Evolving.
It's Ever Evolving Exotics. It's a guy. What is his name? Because I contacted him about sourcing coat mark. I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, he puts a drainage layer, of the leca balls, and then he doesn't put the screen, but he just puts the soil on top of that. And what I found out is that when you put your plants in there, I'll take water and pour it down the edge, and it'll go down in the bottom and kind of travel through those leca balls. But you know what? It's that dirt keeps that humidity down here. And above it, you can have your thermometer, your gauge, and the humidity is perfect. It's perfect up here for the leopard geckos. But what it does is those plants, eventually you'll see those roots going down in there and getting that water. And also your springtails and your isopods, they'll travel down there. And what are they doing? They're in those leca balls, man.
Leca balls,
getting them some water.
Yeah.
And so that's the first time I've ever said that publicly. I might be wrong on that, but hey, it's worked for me.
Jungle people, man. Talking to jungle guys.
You're not wrong, bro. Man. Listen. I'll tell you this. I had a mist nozzle on my leopard gecko tank pointed to the humid hide. Yeah. All right. I had my mist nozzle. The rest of the tank was dry, and I had a mist nozzle pointed to the humid hide at all times. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Eggs because and everything.
That heat lamp is if you spray your tank in the daytime, by the end of the day, or by the end of the day, it's dry.
It keeps the whole side of the tank. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because there'll be times, man.
Don't worry, we'll get canceled together.
Right? Doesn't it rain outside? And I'm sure it rains in Afghanistan. I'll go and spray my enclosure down real good, like the plants. I'll kind of overspray once a month, to kind of just give it that this happens in the wild thing, and I hadn't had any issues, man, with any of my geckos, because I think that's one thing that the hobby's got wrong, and that's my opinion, but is humidity, with leopard geckos. They do need a dryer, but dude, they stay in their humid hides, which is probably 80% humidity all day long. You can't put them in your crested gecko bioactive or your gargoyle, not that wet. But That's just my opinion. Like I say, I'm not trying to start something new.
Especially if they have a large enough enclosure and you have that one little humid section and the rest of it is different where they can go and adjust.
Yeah, because that heat lamp side, dude, it's gonna stay dry. There's no way in heck, you know, anything can any water
I
can
talked with
survive over there.
Seth from Huff's Herps, and he
Yeah, Seth.
breeds fat tails, and he's been doing some things just like that with his fat tails, you know, some bioactive enclosures with some really good results. You
Yeah,
know, so there's a lot of these
Seth,
species people have these misconceptions about.
Seth is great about thinking out of the box. You know, Seth doesn't get placed in a box. Seth's going to do some thinking and find different ways of doing things. You know, I saw him on y'all's podcast. Y'all had him on. I don't know, within the year maybe. It might have been
a few times.
Yeah, because it might have been.
I think that's the
before
most
Mark got
important
on
thing.
here.
Sorry. I think that's the most important thing, though, about being a breeder or reptile keeper is the constant evolution and addition to the hobby. Like, if you just go get the pamphlet from PetSmart and you just follow the pamphlet 1 through 10, and you don't do nothing out of the 1 through 10, it's like you're another robot. I don't know.
Call
I
me
don't know if
crazy,
I'm-
but I think those things are set up to get your animal to die, so you go back and buy another one. That's just
think
if I'm
you're
being
right.
honest, man.
they're
like,
right?
Like how to slowly kill your animal so you come back and buy more. How to slowly kill your animal over a period of a month so you come back and buy another one. It's the only way to stay in business.
First off, they're buying all their animals from these wholesale places. I call them puppy mills, you know, that they're just mass breeding reptiles. The genetics are screwed. Basically, they're junk, you know, at PetSmart and Petco. You can get some good animals there. My 2 that I bought there, they're still going strong, you know, but I
never
keep them right.
truly know what they are, right? You don't know what genetics they are.
For breeding wise, no, you're gonna be screwed. But at the end of the day, PetSmart, Petco, whatever the other one, Pet Supermarket, serves its purpose as an entry point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You guys could say whatever you want to say, but I believe like 98% of people have at one point in time gone into one of those places and was like, let me grab a
sure.
Let me
I say it all the time.
And then once they get it, and they get so, you know, they introduce you to the hobby, and then once you get so entrenched in it, and you're like, oh my God, I love this gecko. That's when you start finding, oh shoot, look at Shane over here, and look at Anthony, and look at Mark, and you know, and you start to become. So it serves as
more than reptile shows. Reptile shows don't introduce new people to reptiles. People that know about reptiles go to reptile shows. Your regular cat owner can become a reptile keeper just simply going to a pet shop. You know, pet shop, and someone with a carriage is walking down the aisle. They wind up down the wrong aisle, and something new catches their eye. So that, again, I absolutely agree. Box stores serve their purpose.
Well, that's a great point, because I can think of many a leopard gecko breeder. Seth, for one, he started out that way. Sasselback, Matt Baronic, he started out working in a pet store, getting pet store leopard geckos and breeding them, and then take them to a show and going, hey, look at this. And they were like, get rid of those, get you something good, you know. And other breeders.
Yeah, my first two from the pet store,
because
my leopard geckos, my first 2 leopard geckos came from a Petco.
Yeah, you were staying quiet for quite some time. I was waiting for you to say something. I was waiting for you to say something.
Shit, I posted them in the box. I bought them at Petco. And that was simply because, again, after being as old as I was, 40 years old, and I never had one, and so many people, and it's a huge responsibility doing this podcast and having an online following. People come to you with questions, and I always like to have an answer, and I like my answers to be based on experience. And I wasn't able to give people any type of explanations or answers or even relate to anything with leopard geckos because I never had them. And I wasn't really interested in breeding them or having any fancy genes as much as I was the animals and behaviors and care. So I was at the pet shop. They had them on sale. I was like, hey, let me do them a favor and, save these two, which I did. They lived perfectly fine. And I learned a little bit about the species. Now, again, I don't know much about breeding them or morphs or genes, but basic care I got familiar with. And it was from the box store. I have never, and I'm not saying this in a smug way, I just didn't transpire this way. I never bought a crested gecko from a big box store. And that's because I was already exposed to breeding quality animals way before I learned about the species and went to a pet shop. I actually learned about crested geckos at a reptile show. My stepdaughter had wanted one, and I'm looking at frogs and stuff, and she's like, I want one of these, I want one of these. I'm like, those things are ugly, leave them alone, come on, get some frogs, and then funny how that worked out. But
yeah, it's
I again, box stores, I wish their care was a little better. But yeah, to co-sign it again, they serve their purpose. They expose more people annually to reptiles than any reptile show combined. It's not even a question,
yeah, that's a great point because it's so true if you think about it. Because a lot of us that's what I didn't know about Morph Market. I didn't know about reptile shows. Um, I didn't know about any of that stuff, but I knew about Petco and PetSmart.
See?
You know, and
There's a lot of
so
people like that.
yeah, there was a lot to learn when I first got on Morph Market. It was actually at the reptile show, that first one I went to, where I told you I met those vendors. The girl, Michaela, she bred crest geckos at the time. She was like, "Yeah, I'm on this platform, whatever, Morph Market." And I looked on it, and it was hard to navigate. I didn't understand it, and I looked at it a couple times. I got away from it. Then I went back to it and found that, and I didn't even know there were breeders when I first started. Of all I knew was Petco and PetSmart and whatever. Then I found out about breeder quality animals, and I'm like, okay, this is a whole new world. Let's see what happens.
And I mean, let's keep it 100 all around, 360. Like, you go to a reptile show and you have those same wholesalers, if not worse than Petco, doing certain stuff at those reptile shows. I don't know in your neck of the woods, but in my neck of the woods, in comparison, you know, every box store is not the same, first of all. So I want to give a shout out to those box stores that do try to do the right thing.
Sure.
Because there are some people that work in these box stores that try to do the right thing. And then there's some that, sorry to say, they need a job. They come in there, nobody teaches them anything. These box stores are more versed towards dogs and cats, if anything. That's their predominantly that's where their sales goals are geared towards, dogs and cats. So they're not really focused on teaching about these reptiles and things like that. But you go to these reptile shows and you'll find some of these people doing worse things than these box stores. So there's the good and bad in everything.
I'm sure you've seen the plant girl. I don't know her name, but she at one of the big shows out west, at the end of the show, they found a bunch of animals in the dumpster, and they took them out, and she's got it on her Instagram. Well, the shows banned her from even vending her shows, vending their show.
I read a lot into that. I went down the wormhole with that one, the whole thing, just from being like a content creator and everything. There was a lot I had to know. I had to dig into it. And it's a super ambiguous. I hate to say it, but I pride myself on being realistic and looking at things from multi angles. And I might as well just be honest. I get where both parties are coming from. I get where the show's coming from. She the way she came off with, she in one or two of her posts, she comes off with kind of holding the show and the promoters responsible for bad vendor ethics. I see how that would get them mad. I see how it would get them mad. I mean, vendors do have a degree of responsibility, without a doubt. You have a degree of responsibility when it comes to vetting your vendors. However, they shouldn't really be held responsible for, excuse my language, every jackass move anyone that comes for the door does. You know, it was super controversial. The whole thing was really iffy, man. And if I mean, I know hindsight's 2020, but if I were to call it, I would have seen it unfolding no other way. No other way could I have seen that situation unfolding than how it did with what she said, what the people at the show did. Because make no mistake about it, they're not vending at their venues anymore either. You know, so it's the show separating themselves from all of the bad publicity, which what else are they supposed to do? You know,
I didn't do much research. I just saw the one post that
ugly,
she did.
very ugly, very ugly.
Yeah.
You know, she wasn't the only one. There was 3 other people with her that all did their own thing when they discovered the animals. And the sad part is the truth of the whole situation, as ugly as it is, was probably the most understandable of it all. They were an import type of vendor. However, the box that they had imported, sent to the show to vend the show, was delayed, showed up late and cold. A lot of the animals that were in the box were thought to be dead. You know, they got screwed. The shipment come. I'm not trying to justify it or justify anything, but it was ugly all the way around.
It's not about justifying. It's about sometimes just be a human and relax and find out the whole story before you, like, I'm all for the animals, but
absolutely,
you being all for the animals does not mean to take down humans. You know, like, be for humans, be for animals, and before you jump the gun, hear and see. I feel like everything blew up without,
facts. It blew way up here, and all this is the only information gathered, and the situation escalated like this. And
one side of the story was heard right away, which caused everybody to see one part of the picture, where the other side of the story was not heard. And you're ruining a family's life.
Multiple families' lives got ruined, and not a single animal was really saved. You know, most, from what I gather, most of the animals that they thought were saved, 3 of had to be euthanized. They took them to vets and spent probably thousands, I don't know the number, but probably thousands of dollars in vet bills, and 3 of them had to be ultimately put to sleep. Neither of those people, or 3 total people, are no longer vending with the reptile show. I mean, so many people got screwed when, before any of that should have happened, there should have been communication, you know. And again, I'm not trying to justify throwing anything alive in the trash, even though they were under the impression they were dead, and a few dozen animals were dead, you know. And it's just ugly.
You're right.
It's just
that goes a lot deeper than I realized. I didn't know all that.
Big complex mess.
Bad situation for the reptile hobby. Period.
Ugly. There you go. Said it perfectly.
Yeah.
Ugly for the hobby. Period. Ugly for the hobby. Period. You know, when in all actuality, if the truth would have been told, the girl probably wouldn't have wanted to say anything. She probably would have just been like, "Damn, that sucks for you." You know, like, probably nobody would have said anything, and it would have. Again, I'm not trying to justify that and make that sound pretty. It's just. It was bad. Animal, that's an ugly side of, if you want to get down to the basics of importing, exporting, and the ugly side of shipping animals and delays and weather and not doing research. I mean, people sending, it's just,
Yeah, and there's a lot there that we don't see with all of that, what you just said, the importing, exporting, like,
You
There's
take it. I watch these videos of people going down to Thailand and the hidden export import market and stuff, bro. You're going by the laws of the United States of America, where you fly to a different country and they are doing that to survive and to live. You know, so just bro, if you see kids that are going to grab a snake to sell so that they can get bread to feed the I don't know how to say what's right and what's wrong, you know. I just know that if I have to feed my kids, my wife, and that's the last thing on earth that I could do to feed them,
And
bro,
you're in a
I'm
third
gonna go
world
catch a
country.
snake. You know, if
yeah,
I'm in a
yeah,
third world
exactly.
country, I
American
don't have
ethics mean nothing to you.
yeah, like, you know, we're talking about them doing that, but then you go eat half a plate of food and throw it out. You don't even offer it to the person that need. I don't know how to justify all of these things when you start, you know, it's
You
just
don't just learn the facts, and you know, there's you guys have both seen that show Trafficked with Maria, whatever her name is, a show on National Geographic called Trafficked.
yeah, yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you seen it? Well, they just did an episode about animal import and export, catching wild animals. It's on Netflix. You can find it wherever. And she goes over to, I don't know if it's Togo or maybe it's somewhere in the Congo. She's talking to these people that catch chimpanzees and sell them to the pet market. And they basically said just that, Mark. She's like, listen, your ethics are your ethics. We are for conservation. We want to sell these animals. However, if someone over here is offering me 50,000 whatever, you know, I can feed my family for a year on that. I don't care what you believe. I'm going to get them what they want. That's you know, they have no jobs. They literally live in galvanized steel huts, you know, cooking out of clay forged fire pits outside. They don't give a crap about what Americans feel. You know, they care about the forest. They may live off of it. They hunt it. They feed their families off that forest, which in return, if you're a realist, will understand that they're probably more conservation than we are. I mean, Americans are pretty big at saying, hey, let's save the land, but I just need those 40 acres over there so I can build my condominiums. But we're going to save the land.
Yeah,
We're saving that land because I can't build
yeah.
on it, but we're going to save that land. But
Well,
that over there, well,
they're just doing what they got to do to survive. You know,
yes,
from what
yes,
you're saying, you know.
yes. And they
Yeah, I
put
mean,
dozens of animals in boxes, and let's be honest, half don't survive. Half don't survive the
Yeah.
trip. Half, I mean, it's again ugly truths, you know. And a lot of people, and I'm not going to bash everyone, but there's a lot of today's youth, right, that lives in a very delusional world, and I wish that they discovered reality in a much softer way, you know, but it doesn't always work that way. You know, sometimes it's life's ugly truths that introduce them to reality. And not much I can say about it. You know, I again, I just always hate to see when people's livelihoods are the only thing that was lost, you know,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
not good for anybody to make assumptions without education.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's I've noticed that about vending shows. You know,
You will.
for me it's just a hobby and we're doing this for fun. But man, there's a lot of folks there that's their job. You know,
Sure.
this is what they do.
Sure.
And whether they're wholesalers or a big ball python breeder, because we do a lot of small shows. You know, it's just in our area within 4 or 5 miles away from us. You know, we're basically in the Memphis area, and you know, we go up to St. Louis, over to Nashville, we go into Arkansas. But at all of these shows, I see it all. You know, the breeders that are doing it full time, especially the bigger shows like this All American. There'll be, you know, some bigger name breeders, and that's what they do. You know, and there's some probably be some bigger wholesalers. and they're
Cedric, you
bringing
don't
in.
have to agree with
You know,
it. You don't have to agree with it. I don't agree with it, but it's not my choice. It's not my choice. It's the reality of it. You don't have to agree with something to accept the reality of it. And
yeah, and I'll accept that when they come by my table, they're going to tell me these are the most healthy, beautiful geckos in the house.
That's how you make change, man. That's how you make change. That's how being part of the hobby makes change, not by creating controversy and ruining people's lives. You get, it's more important to go to that table when you see something being done wrong and educate them. It's like what mom used to say. If you don't have nothing nice to say, then don't say it at all. You know, go to that table, educate them, but don't go
Bambi
take.
said that.
Well, my mom used to say that shit, and she used to do the, if you don't have nothing to say, then don't say it at all. And like
Thumper.
I don't have
It was Thumper on Bambi, right?
Thumper.
You don't have anything nice to say. Don't say anything at all.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
If you don't have nothing nice to say, then don't say it at all, and go up to that person and influence them to do better. Don't record, take photos, and not even give the person a chance to speak, and you post it to the world and create
Media storm.
Drama.
Yeah,
Drama.
like that, those type of, especially if you're part of the hobby, because just because you put that person, just because you put that person on blast, you did not do nothing better for the hobby. If anything, you made the hobby look worse, because the people outside of the hobby that see that, they don't care about you or the person that did the bad thing. They're just saying, well, those reptiles are bad.
Exactly why I think that chick got banned. That's why she got kicked out of the show, because she brought bad. And I don't. Again, I'm not saying she did it on purpose. I genuinely believe she had the best of intentions, but she made everybody, even all of us sitting at home, look bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you were talking about that, Mark, and it made me think that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. There's going to people that I come in contact with. They're going to see what I'm doing. I'm trying to be ethical. I'm trying to do the best for my animals. I'm trying to do the best for the animals that are going to your house. There's going to be people that see that, and the ones that see that and want to get on the boat and do the same thing to do right, those are the people that are going to do it. And there are always going to be those ones that just are going to be on the outside looking in, and you're going to what is it called? Like, people are going to see how you do things, and it's going to follow you around. And eventually people are going to see that, well, this person's not doing it very good, and this person is doing things good. Who am I going to go with? Because if you just stay on that course and do your thing, like I'm trying to do, like we're trying to do the right thing, it's going to take you somewhere, and people are going to see that, and
Absolutely.
that's the direction I'm trying to go with this business, is to do the right thing. When I see a post on Instagram, every day you see it. Somebody had a bad experience on Morph Market. It's a breeder that had a bad experience with this person, and they're posting the conversation on their Instagram.
Oh,
and I'm just thinking to myself, see, that's the person I'm going to avoid. I mark it down in my head, that person right there, okay, let's stay away from that person. Because for me, if I see drama, I'm walking the other way. I'm not going to get involved in it. I'm not going to say anything to create drama.
Messy.
You know what I mean? Because that's where, you're going to alienate some people from your business if you're getting involved in that stuff. And my goal is to have everybody included, and not exclude anybody. And for me to say and do something like that, I'm excluding somebody. Even though I had a bad experience with them, if I didn't do that, maybe that gets ironed out down the line. Like with this girl, she could have gone and said something and did. Here's the thing that came to me. Usually your first reaction to something, you shouldn't even go with. You should stop. You should pause and think, okay. And I've had to learn that, man, because I used to be a hothead. Dude, I used to get in trouble at work by running my mouth, saying the first thing that came out of my mouth. But you know what? Life's gotten easier since I pause. I think about what I'm going to say. Even when I post something on Instagram, dude, it'll take me 20 minutes to post something because I'm like rewriting it and making sure it sounds right. And, but that's
It's
the
like
way
Mark's mom used to say, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. My grandmother used to tell me, Anthony, better think before you open your fucking mouth.
Yeah,
but,
man.
but
Jeez,
but
please
there's always going to be those. And like I said, if I see drama, dude, I'm walking the other way. I don't want to be involved in it because I don't want that to follow me and people look at me and go, well, that's the guy that was in that post having drama with somebody else. Let's not buy from him,
Yeah. I don't think people realize that, you in the moment, you may feel like, oh, I'm going to put this person on blast and that's going to fix the situation. But there's people that are looking from the outside in that see that and they get a bad taste in their mouth just by like, you know what? I don't care who's right, who's wrong, but just all of this toxic.
That's me.
Like, I don't want to even
both of
talk
you.
or deal with it, Like,
both of you can go. It facts.
yeah, that's me. Like, we just gonna cancel all of you and we're gonna keep it moving because I don't even got time for none of that. I don't care who's right or who's wrong. Let's just move on,
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's exactly right.
It's energy, man. You got to keep that bad energy out of out of your circle.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because there's a lot more good in this hobby. There really is. It sucks that those couple things have to happen, but
that's why it's amazing that you being here for 2 years, you've experienced nothing but good. You've engulfed yourself in a reptile that is well known. What did you say is the number one? Is it the number one or is it the number one gecko as a pet?
Number one gecko
is the number one gecko
as a number one kept gecko in the United States.
Yeah, and I'm sure during your tenure and in your journey, you will encounter some things here and there, but I'm happy. Like, I always ask, especially people who just started and who've just been around. I always ask, how was it for you? Like, even with Morph Market, you said you sold a couple of times on Morph Market. How was that? Just so that the audience knows, like, hey, he had a great experience, because it's those stories, those great experience stories that we try to shine light on to inspire others instead of, hearing all of that negative stuff and then they get scared. No, man, there's a lot of great stuff happening out there,
Yeah.
That's what we try to. That's what we try to focus on. There's a
lot more great stuff than there is that negative stuff,
Yeah,
and
is.
The thing is, the negative stuff is the juicy stuff, is what it's like, is the sticky stuff that gets caught on everybody. But the good stuff is so much out there. So many good people, like you said, man. It's fun.
But you're gonna have those people, man, that just thrive on drama. Just thrive on it, and it's you're always gonna have that group. And
anywhere you go, cars, motorcycles, horses, everything in this world.
Yep.
Sneakers. So
hats, apparently, sports teams, apparently.
The sports games and stuff, Are you a baseball fan, Shane?
Yeah, I played baseball. I know baseball. I like summertime when college baseball, and you're gonna laugh at me, but women's college softball. Those are fun sports to watch, just because
I bet.
the amateur sports, college, they got so much more to me, there's just
exciting.
It's just got so much more heart in it, you know.
More
Less
competition.
rules.
Yeah.
know?
I'm very basketball has really, I can't even watch it no more, but that's on another
No.
topic.
Yeah, that's another level.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I'll
It's a
tell
shame.
you, you said basketball, but man, overall professional sports, it's just hard to watch because it's just become more entertainment than it is the sport. You know, let's celebrate and get up and show an ass of myself every time I catch a ball, or you know, do something. It's like, dude, all you did was just make a first down. You know, go make a touchdown and then maybe celebrate. You know,
Right? Me growing up
but
playing Pop Warner, I'd have got my ass kicked if I'd have celebrated a
oh, your
first.
coach
You know
would
what
have
I'm
sat
saying?
you on
Like
the
you
bench.
didn't get in the
Yeah.
end zone, boy. You better get out of here. You know?
You can celebrate after the game. You know,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So going back to the leopard geckos, is there anything that we may not have touched on that you really wanted to talk about or really
We're at 2
put out
hours
there?
already.
yeah. Man, for the most part, you know, I think we covered quite a bit. You know, there's nothing I can think of other than, you know, them being the number one. Just let people know they're the number one gecko out there, ain't that right, Anthony?
Absolutely
If the internet says
rightfully
it,
so.
you know it's
I
right.
don't even I wouldn't even I just needed that to verify and validate what I already know. It's easy for me being in the reptile world to see that. I know more people. I see lots of sects of the reptile world, and without a doubt, there are more leopard geckos than there are any other type of gecko. So how could they not be? You know, it's. I walk into pet stores all the time that have leopard geckos that don't have crested geckos, like for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Most of them have crested geckos, but there's a few around me that have leopard geckos, bearded dragons, the warmer stuff, but do not have tropical species. You know, they don't have crested geckos. You know, reptile shows, I guess some out my way are maybe close, but again, leopard geckos always have the edge. There's always more. There's more morphs. There's more genes. I mean, it's how could they not be the most popular? I just needed that for little personal satisfaction. I openly admit they're more popular than what I keep. You know.
Yeah, it's one thing that is kind of tough when it comes to selling them. Is just the cost getting into it. You know, with the enclosure, lighting, and all that, you're looking, you know, at $250 to $300, maybe even more, depending on how far you want to get into it, depending on what kind of clothes you get. But I always refer people to PetSmart has the best enclosures for the price. They've always got them half price. You know, they're normally $250. They got them for $125 or less. In fact,
What is
that's
it,
where I got all my
Thrives?
glass enclosures.
The Thrive enclosures.
Zoom Ed and Thrive. Right now,
Yeah,
40%
both.
off plus 15. I'm gonna do a little coupon for you guys right now. Right now, you can go on PetSmart, order you can order to pick up in store. You get 40% off plus an extra 15% off.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, PetSmart has the best hides. They've got, they've got the humid hide. They've got, man, like it's the best on the market. It's called a snake hide, but it's got the top that comes off, and it's got a hole in there, and then their hides, just regular hides that are just like a rock. That those are great. And dude, Petco doesn't even offer a humid hide, and so in fact on my phone it shows I have albums of products from PetSmart, mostly from PetSmart. I have a product that I get my thermostats from on Amazon. So I can refer customers there. But eventually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, I want to have those products on my table. It's just we have not been able. There's so much to do that some things we just haven't gotten to yet, you know. But I refer them there, tell them, hey, here's that. Like right now, I bought 2 of the thermostats to take to the show with me in case somebody needs one. And I will, you know, but I want to have all those products eventually. The hides, I'm
What
really
type of
looking
thermostats did you get?
It's a thermostat. It's a gosh, it's a dang it, I can't think of the name, but it's Lucky Herp thermostat.
Oh, okay.
It's the cheapest one, and I use them on my breeding racks. You know, it's not but like $19, $18.99. You know, and they work great. I use them on all my glass enclosures, my breeding racks, and they're the best. But what I'm going to start doing, I've noticed that same thermostat is connected to a lamp, so you don't have to buy 2 things. You can just buy the lamp with the thermostat already part of it as a one package deal. Which I really wasn't a fan of those, but then I'm thinking, you know what? It'd be great for the customer to just buy this one thing and have it to offer and say, here's your thermostat with your lamp. Put it on there. Put your light in there. Boom, you're good to go. But I'm looking for a place to source products. You know, like I just got my LLC. I got my EIN. So you need all that in a lot of places to get your wholesale license, which I've done with a few companies. And but I'm kind of looking to find places to source things, you know, at good prices to be able to sell it and make a profit. You know, you don't want to buy something and not make a profit. So that's in the works. That's just part of what we're doing. And like I said, there's so much to do. I've packed a whole bunch of stuff in a little bit of time, you know, and I've done a fairly decent job, I think, you know, because there's a lot to it, man. You know, there's the business side. Social media and Facebook is your best
Job
advertising.
in itself.
That's a
Sure
job,
is.
dude. That's a job. You know, when it came to husbandry, I was kind of glad that I got into multiple species at once. You know, I built bioactives for tropical, for, you know, I've got tarantulas and my leopard geckos. I built, you know, the foam backgrounds. I did all that. I've got that experience. So when somebody comes to my, dude, you wouldn't believe how many people come to my table that have a crested gecko and they're like, man, what do I, you know, or they're buying cork bark and they're like, you know, how do I do this or that? In fact, our first show we did, a lady came up and she had a crested gecko and she wanted some cork bark and she was going to build a background. Man, we took that cork bark and I mapped out a square that would be that 18 by 18 size, you know, 24. Put the cork bark down. I said, here, take these right here, put them like this, spray your foam, blah, 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 blah. Taught her how to do it. We took a picture of it. I took a picture of it, and, you know, I told her, take a picture of it. This is the way it's going to look on your background, you know. And then I told her how to do the leaker balls, the screen, window screen, put your soil down. Dude, I saw her. This was in May of last year. I just saw her at a show a couple months back, and she was telling me how great her enclosure was, how things were doing. She bought isopods from me too. She gave me an update. I'm like, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And she was telling her friend, she was like, this guy here, he helped me do this and showed me, and you know, and
That's what Palm Street and Morph Market Live cannot take away. They can't win. They can make it easy to make sales, but those in-person shows, you said 2 things today. You said this story, and you said when the gentleman came to you and told you you're very personable, keep doing what you're doing. Those in-person shows, remember we were talking about that, Anthony. Palm Street could possibly hurt the in-person reptile shows as far as sales and the ease of a sale, but those special moments like that is what, like, it gives you, bro. That's a proud moment when, you know, you're at that table and they come back a year later, bro. Hey, that tank you showed me how to build, this is that the other, and they come to your table. Hey, Shane, that animal I bought from you, look at it now. Like those are those special moments, man. That's awesome.
And, you know, our first year, we didn't have a lot of return customers. But I'm really looking forward to this Nashville show because we did the same show beginning of, about 6 months ago, let's say. And there were some customers that bought geckos from me. And, dude, after the show, I allowed the customers to go home, get their enclosure. It's PetSmart, put their closure together, bioactive, you know, all that stuff. We met the customers in 2 different cities after the show. You know, one was about 15 minutes out of the way. The other one was on the way home, 30 minutes. Dropped the geckos off, gave them to the customers. And I'm looking forward to seeing those customers at this show. I'm hoping they're there to give me updates on their geckos. You know, that's
Cool.
a fun thing. You know, getting updates and seeing customers again. It's good to see repeat customers like we're seeing now. You know,
You'll be surprised. Maybe after last year you didn't get return, bro. They'll come back 2 years later. They'll come. I had a woman come to me the last show I was at and was like, I don't know if you remember me, but a few years ago I bought this day gecko from you. I saw you over here. I just wanted to show you and this is that. And I'm like,
awesome.
my wife is laughing at me and stuff because I'm there all
You're all chest
yeah.
out. Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, man. You know, it's really cool. Like it just makes you feel like, hey, you're doing even that one person. Or I have a kid that he always comes with his mom, and he buys morning geckos or a yellow-headed gecko, and he always comes, man, with his mom, and he's like, I still got the yellow-headed gecko, and his mom is there like, he still got it. He holds it and everything. And, you know, it just makes you feel good, bro. It just makes you feel good.
And like you said, that's the kind of stuff you're not going to get from Palm Street, Morph Market. You know, it's those experiences like these, you know, because that's why we do shows, man. I just love interaction with people. You know, you can interact like Mark. That's how I met you, dude. The first Palm Street we did, you did with that nerdy dude, Quincy, you know, the gecko nerd. Y'all did a show together. It's like October of 24. All right. And dude, you were a trip. You had me laughing, you know. I actually bought a gargoyle. I think you brought some retic gargoyles that show. But anyway, I remember you saying, honey, it was under $100. It was under $100. You know, that was the excuse for buying something. You know, and then after that, man, I started watching your, you know, lives on Instagram and all that. But you can get that kind of stuff from Palm Street because there's interaction there, you know. But just having those experiences too. I mean, I might not be on this show if I hadn't have interacted with you on social media here and there, you know. There's the dogs. But you know, it's just that's what this hobby's about, man. It's just people. You know, we think it's about reptiles.
Absolutely.
Really, it's about people. You know, and making
Absolutely.
people happy, interacting, and being on podcasts like this. You know, spreading the love.
Absolutely.
What's up, man?
Well, we're over 2 hours and 11 minutes now.
That's it. It's so much fun. I didn't realize it.
You ain't lying. You
It
ain't
goes.
lying. You ain't lying. It really does, man. It really, you know, it's again, like you said, man. It's all about the people, man. You know, the people behind the brands, the people behind the logos. It was a complete pleasure having you on and talking to you. You have a very charismatic personality. Again, I think you have a very promising future. Love what you're doing. Loving how you're doing it. I love everything I heard today, man. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Not that you need it, but I'm curious, you know, to talk to you again soon. It'd be nice to see where you are, and you know, after another season, you know, with your breeding, with your vending, with everything. It would be awesome to keep in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. I need to.
Is there any announcements you want to make? Anything as far as how people can find you, if they want to reach out for maybe some questions, if you're willing to just help people with some stuff, if you're, you know, what's the best way people can get a hold of you, where, all that good jazz.
Yeah, well, you know, we're on Morph Market, just nxsgeckos. Our social media, Facebook and Instagram is just nxsgeckos, NXS and then geckos. You can find us there. And we respond to any questions, any messages we get, we'll answer all questions,
Awesome.
And
guys, I'll post all of his information in the show notes. You'll have his IG handle, and I'll post that in the show notes for you guys.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we've got this Nashville show coming up this weekend. We'll be there tomorrow by 4:00. VIP starts at 4 to 7, but that weekend, then 2 weeks from that, we've got St. Louis, which is a 2-day show, and we really enjoyed both those cities, so come out and see us if you're.
Guys, if you're out there, probably won't have this released for the show tomorrow, but for the St. Louis one, we will have this out. So if you're in the area, stop by, check him out, support him, show him some love, and at the very least, just stop by, check out the animals he's working with, guys. Support your fellow breeders, man. It's not a competition. This is all about support. Supporting each other, supporting each other's ventures, journeys, opinions. Show your fellow reptile breeders some love, guys.
Yeah.
You have any announcements, Mark? Anything do you got coming up that we'll have this out in time for? I know you're doing some Palm Streets and got a bunch of other things coming up. Is your shows? I know you got a bunch of shows coming up too, but
they're popping up, man. Trying to get you out. I'm trying to get you out here for one of them shows or something that we can hang out, man. Playing a lot of games, but if you want to see Anthony in Florida at the next reptile show, put that in the comments. Let's see him. Let's see if we could get him out here. We got Reptilian Nation, Broward, April 25th, April 26th. We got Scales in June, Daytona, August. Palm Street is the 21st of March, which this probably won't be out, but every 2 weeks from the 21st of March, we should be scheduling a Palm Street, and then that's it. Also, if you are buying leopard geckos and stuff like that, they have the Monster Box terrestrial tanks that you got that.
Yep, 10-gallon, 12 by 12 by 18, and a 16 by 16 by 24 terrestrial enclosures.
Boom, which are at a very affordable price. If you still feel those sales at PetSmart don't work for you, you can go to the monsterbox.com website and you can grab one of those terrestrials.
.us, monsterbox.us.
I always say .com.
Check out our
full
terrestrial lineup, guys.
Yeah.
And then my last thing is, go get yourself a signed copy dedicated, since this is the Leopard Gecko episode, go get yourself a signed copy. Ron Tremper, Leopard Gecko morphs. It's a lot of cool pictures and morphs in here. It's like amazing. All right.
How much was it? How much was the book?
I've got those in my cart, Mark, on Amazon. I hadn't ordered them yet.
What is like 20, 22, 25? That's it.
Yeah, it's like
and
20,
he signs it.
$26. That's not bad at all.
He signs it right there.
Even if you don't keep them, man, that's a cool book to just have on the bookshelf, man, in the library. It's an awesome.
On mine, I don't know if he's gonna write this on everybody's. Ron wrote on mine's like, to Mark, thanks for being awesome. You are extremely great. All
I saw was a signature, man.
Like maybe, and then he said, "Go Yankees." I don't know why he wrote that, but
because he wasn't sure on how to spell Mets. He didn't. All right, guys. It was awesome having everybody here today. We appreciate all your support, all the love. Check out all of this episode and all of the other amazing episodes and guests that we have on the dozens and dozens of episodes that are on our YouTube channel. New Cow Corner, at New Cow Corner. I think there's an underscore, but you'll find it. Type it in, you'll find it. Awesome interviews. We have plenty of other species too. So yes, we are New Caledonia specific, but we love stepping out on these little ventures here and learning about new species and taking you guys with us. So head over to the YouTube channel, show us some love, and above all, show the guests that we've had on the show some love, man. Check them out, listen to them. Everybody so far has had something amazing to offer. And, stay weird, guys. Honestly, stay unique, stay you. Never conform. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.